we can talk to Avi Melamed, who's founder of the Inside the Middle East think tank. Avi, welcome to BBC News. We don't know who is behind the latest strikes from Lebanon into Israel. Hezbollah has denied being involved in those attacks. Do we have any inkling of who it is that is now attacking from Lebanon into Israel? And of course, now we know Israel reciprocating with strikes back into Lebanon.
Well, thank you for having me. No, we don't have at this point identification of the organization beyond this shooting. I tend to believe that Hezbollah is not the one beyond that attack, but I think the bigger story here is, in the end of the day, the inner Lebanese story. And the bottom line is as follows. Lebanon is now starting a very long, convoluted journey in trying to restore its kidnapped sovereignty. This is a sovereignty that was kidnapped by Iran and Hezbollah for the last couple of decades. And this is a very long, convoluted process. And in that regards, we should notice that in Lebanon, there are those semi-state entities. Hezbollah, of course, is the major one of them, but it's not the only one. There are also Palestinian-affiliated and semi-state entities operating particularly in the Palestinian refugee camps. And they all, each and every one of them, in the end of the day, is challenging the sovereignty of the state of Lebanon.
Avi, is it possible that these types of airstrikes can be done without Hezbollah's knowledge, that arguably could they have happened without Hezbollah sanctioning them?
Well, one Lebanese source that I was talking to basically was very firmly saying, no, the Hezbollah know about it, or they basically had at least some general knowledge about it, but they didn't interfere. But that, again, in the end of the day, it goes back to the major issue that I mentioned before. And in that regards, I would say something else. It happens exactly in the same time, or very shortly after, the Prime Minister of Lebanon was again restating that Lebanon's identity is the people and the army. Why do I say that? Because during the time the Hezbollah had much more power in Lebanon, Hezbollah dictated an equation that says the Lebanese people are the army, the people and the resistance. Now, in the new Lebanese government, that term was taken out of the definition. So it may be some sort of like a signal from either Hezbollah or one of the Palestinian affiliated factors, which, by the way, many of whom are actually cooperating with Hezbollah, to signal the Lebanese government that they are not willing to accept the new equation of the inner Lebanese politics and the inner Lebanese policy vis-a-vis its security.
I wonder what you make of the timing of these strikes, because, of course, we see what is happening between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Israel relaunching a very intense wave of attacks. And we know that when it comes to the families of the hostages, they are unhappy about what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. They are once again out on the streets protesting against the increased attacks against Hamas in Gaza. Is it potentially linked, the timing of the attacks from Lebanon into Israel?
No, I do not think so. We have to remind ourselves that those attacks happened before October 7 and also after October 7. So I don't necessarily connect that to that. I will connect the attacks to some other things that happened recently in Lebanon, and particularly a couple of days ago in a different arena of Lebanon, which seemingly is not connected, but it is connected. I'm talking about the clashes that took a couple of days ago place between the Syrian armed forces on the one hand and Lebanese armed factors on the other side. Some of them have been portrayed as Hezbollah, other basically has been portrayed as a Lebanese local land, warlands that operate in the east part of Lebanon and are involved in smuggling of weapons and narcotics. Why do I bring that to the picture of the rocket shooting today? Because in the end of the day, it's all part of this big picture that I was portraying. This is part of the battle of re-establishing Lebanon sovereignty. So in the end of the day, any attempt to associate those things to external issues would be inaccurate, and I think we'll miss the point. The real point here is to help Lebanon and the Lebanese people who are expressing that urge to restore their stolen and kidnapped sovereignty and to start taking the very convoluted and challenging process towards the that objective of restoring their sovereignty and independence.
Avi, we have to leave it there, but thank you as always for speaking to us. Avi Melamed, founder of the Inside the Middle East think tank. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.